Well, we're running up against our time frame, but we have one final question, Sean, on benchmarking. We did begin our conference with benchmarking. This is a very, very important topic for this audience. And so we just wanted to receive your perspectives, and as well as Eulalia's and Peter's, on the value of benchmarking. And really, how does your organization, we know that you support and provide our association many great metrics and benchmarking, but how do you actually use benchmarking yourself?
So let me start with where we see value for our clients, why they use benchmarking and how they use benchmarking, because it's actually changed in the last couple of years. I would say going into it, benchmarking used to be an exercise with Hackett or any organization that you'd go out and do a benchmark at either a process level, like what you saw around the payroll cycle and AP and some of the performance metrics there, as well as workforce management, but all the way up to a function as finance or general administrative expense. And at any one of those levels, really looking at what is it costing me, how many people do I take, what kind of cycle times and error rates do I have, really kind of understanding the diagnostic approach, the deep dive, if you will, of going into the doctor to understand how do your processes run. Now that's still, I think, a great reason to go out there is to get that empirical data. So you're not talking about kind of a qualitative aspect, but it really adds a quantitative aspect to your discussion. So still very important. But I'd say many clients now have been transitioning more around the limited budgets. And if I only have limited dollars to spend, then I better understand, should I be working on the payroll process, or should I be working on maybe the accounts receivable process, or maybe it should be general accounting. So it allows them to prioritize their investments with limited dollars to understand where they can get the maximum, in many cases, in-year return is very important these days. I'd also say the other thing that Benchmark is really doing is help restart the investment in process improvement, because it helps make the case for, in that change management aspect of, now you've got someone from the outside that's coming in to tell you what's wrong, which is always helpful, as Eulalia had mentioned earlier in the discussion. B, I think it helps put the numbers together that when you present those to the C-level and the board, they say, you know what, this actually is an area that we need to focus on. It's not all about kind of restarting the sales engine. I also think I can get some significant margin back if I do some of these things in general administrative that hopefully will help me find the money, for example, to fund more salespeople on the street. So changing the investment mix within the company is very important, and that change management aspect is very important. Flipping it around to how does Hackett use its own dog food? We actually use our benchmarking internally to look at our own processes. So what are we doing around our accounting shop, and what's our cycle times like? And it's kind of interesting. Every time I go to a meeting with our internal folks, I always bring up is this a best practice? So for example, and around benchmarking. So do we really need to go through 5 reviews of the plan that we have today, or really most clients that are world-class can review a plan and a forecast in 2 iterations? So now our internal folks don't like it when I use our own data, but it's nice to be kind of, I think as we were talking last night, kind of it was apparent from people that saw our session that we're kind of the data geeks. Well, imagine internally when you're going kind of geek to geek over data and using that some of the things you get into. But it's very effective in terms of getting down to the core issue, understanding what the benefits are, both efficiency and effectiveness to making those changes, and then helping persuade the executive team to make those changes.
I think one of the things that has been a theme through the whole conference has been leadership, and how do you build leadership skills? What kinds of things do you need to truly be a leader in an organization? And leadership's not positional. It's about taking risks, being innovative, creating new things and greater value. I think where benchmarking can be really useful, whatever level you're in at the company, is to provide you with those insights that allows you to innovate, to see those new pathways that you haven't followed before, and then to have objective data that comes from the outside, which can often be more persuasive than data you have on the inside. Sad but true. Well, not sad for you, but for to have that objective data to use to then present to the C-suite or your leadership suite to demonstrate that you're actually thinking in the best interests of the company and creating something new and using the kind of material you have at your fingertips to really shift the organization.
so try to inject a little levity. So let me tell you a joke, and then I'll explain why that comes into it. You know, the problem between men and women is women want men to change, but men don't want women never to change. Are you familiar with that? Okay, that's the problem we have in our businesses, right? We have this inherent contradiction. We want change, but we don't want change, and we want to manage that. So with benchmarking, facts are really the only way you get good, solid, consistent change and know what to change and how to change it. And benchmarking is one of the sets of facts. Our firm really believes in a fact-based approach because it takes the noise out of the room, it takes the emotion down, and we can look and see what we're doing. And you're really not going to get any meaningful change without a solid fact-based. That's how you can get responsible men and women to sit down and agree against it. It's an ingredient. I mean, there's a lot of other things we need to do too, but if you're trying to do that without facts, it's a really long and uphill battle. So, you know, and I think benchmarking is one of the pools of facts, and certainly our firm is built around that, and that's why we have a consulting and research firm. And it's about bringing objective facts that are pertinent, that are solid, that you can then both see how others do it, as well as make informed decisions, and then choose where you use your capital, your emotional, your financial, and your organizational capital, and your leadership capital to, you know, what change do we need, what are we doing it? So I'll leave you with the idea that, you know, women want men to change, and men want women never to change. And I think that's the fundamental contrast we have in our own organizations. You know, what are we going to do? And it's really hard to do that without facts.